I never thought Christmas lights would put me in a legal battle, but that's exactly what happened. This year I went all out: lights, inflatables, a snow machine, everything. Families loved it. Kids visited every night. It was supposed to be magical. Until my HOA president, Marla, marched onto my lawn in her bright orange pantsuit and told me my decorations were excessive, disruptive, and a violation of community luminescence standards. Yes, luminescence standards. She gave me 48 hours to take everything down. But what she didn't expect was that on Christmas Eve morning, a sheriff would show up, holding a court order. And it wasn't against me. It was against her. Let me tell you how I went from Christmas spirit to full-blown legal warfare. Christmas has always been my season. I don't drink pumpkin spice. I don't care about Halloween. But come December, I turn into the kind of adult who decorates like Santa personally hired me. And this year I outdid myself. I had synchronized lights timed to classic Christmas songs. A snow machine I imported because I wanted actual snowfall in my yard despite it being 55 degrees at night. A 12-foot inflatable Santa that waved at anyone who walked by. A glowing tunnel of candy canes leading up to my door. A charity donation drop box. Even the gutters were lined with programmable LED icicles. It wasn't just decorations. It was an experience. And the neighborhood kids adored it. Every night, I'd see them dragging their parents across the street to walk through the lights. People took pictures. Some donated toys. It was everything I loved about Christmas. But joy apparently is illegal when you live in an HOA. Well, if you ask Marla, our HOA president. Let me paint a picture of this woman. Imagine the human embodiment of a traffic cone. The color scheme, the attitude, and the ability to stop everything around her. She always wore this bright, almost glowing orange pantsuit, like she wanted airplanes to spot her from 10 miles away. Clipboard always in hand. Anger always in her voice. Rules always on her mind. I knew she'd eventually say something. I just didn't expect her meltdown to be this dramatic. It was December 3rd, the first night I turned everything on. The lights kicked in, Jingle Bell Rock blasted, and the snow machine puffed out a soft, powdery cloud across the yard. Kids screamed with happiness. Parents laughed. Phones came out. People started singing along. Felt like the beginning of a Christmas movie. And then, clack, 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 I heard that sharp heel-on-pavement stomp. The sound every homeowner in our neighborhood feared. I turned around, and there she was, Marla, in her neon orange pantsuit, marching straight toward me with the fury of a woman who had never experienced joy. Her eyes darted over every decoration like she was scanning evidence at a crime scene. She didn't say hello. She didn't say good evening. She didn't even blink. She pointed her clipboard directly at my Santa. What is this? I smiled because I genuinely thought she was joking. Christmas. Wrong answer. This is excessive, she snapped. I almost laughed. Everyone else standing nearby went dead silent. The lights are too bright. The music is too loud. The inflatables exceed height guidelines. The snow machine is a safety hazard. She said safety hazard, like my snow machine was a nuclear warhead. Parents around me shifted uncomfortably. Kids looked confused. I tried staying calm. Marla, it's Christmas. The kids love it. This, she said, stabbing the air with her clipboard, is an HOA community, not a carnival. She scribbled furiously on her clipboard. I'll be sending you a notice. Effective immediately. She didn't walk away. She marched away, arms stiff, like she was declaring war. And to be fair, she was. The next morning, I opened my door and almost slipped on an envelope taped aggressively across the entire front panel. Bright orange. Of course, the HOA's color. Marla's color. The color of fear. Inside was a formal violation letter. Your decorations exceed the approved luminescence quota. Luminescence quota. Who even measures that? Next line. Your property hosts 7 unapproved holiday structures. They were talking about my inflatables. Then the final threat. Failure to remove all excessive decorations within 48 hours will result in fines, penalties, and further action. Further action was bolded and underlined. I stood there with the letter in my hand, speechless. My decorations weren't hurting anyone. They weren't blocking the street. They weren't preventing anyone from doing anything. They were literally spreading holiday joy. But apparently joy violates Article 2, Section 7B of the HOA's Visual Uniformity Standards. Only Marla would know that off the top of her head. That evening, as I was fixing one of the icicle lights, my neighbor Paul walked over. Paul is the kind of guy who listens to Christmas music in October. So naturally, he was furious. "I heard Marla is trying to shut you down," he said, shaking his head. "Yeah," I sighed. "She sent me a violation notice." "That woman hates fun," he muttered into his hot chocolate. Then more neighbors came over. Some offered to help. Some brought cookies. Some just wanted to show support. But just as quickly, the other side emerged. The ones who whispered things like, it is kind of bright. And the music is loud. And my dog barked last night. They weren't bad people. They were just scared of Marla. Because Marla had a reputation. Anyone who crossed her regretted it. People started asking me what I was going to do. Was I going to take the decorations down? Was I going to fight it? I didn't have an answer yet. But 2 days later, I absolutely did. On December 5th, I came home to find Marla standing in my yard again, measuring tape in hand, face twisted like she just smelled burnt cookies. She was measuring my candy cane tunnel. I walked over. "What are you doing?" She didn't even look up. "Verifying compliance." "With what?" "Article 14A, height restrictions for seasonal displays." I almost choked. "Wait, Article 14A? That section was removed last year." She froze. For a split second, she looked scared. Then angry. Then more angry. "I'll be the one to determine what applies," she snapped. And then she stormed off again. That was the moment I realized she wasn't just enforcing rules. She was targeting me, and I wasn't going to let her win. I called my friend Andrew, who's a real estate attorney. I showed him the notice. I told him about Marla's behavior, and I told him about Article 14A. He flipped through the HOA covenant and smirked. "She can't enforce any of this," he said. "She cited outdated rules. She violated procedural requirements. And she can't order you to remove decorations without a board vote." I blinked. "So, she's just bluffing?" "Oh, she's trying," he said, laughing. "But she messed up." Then he said the one sentence that changed everything. "We can fight this." We drafted a petition that night. A formal request for an injunction to stop the HOA from taking any action until the matter was reviewed. I filed it the next morning. I didn't tell anyone. Not even my neighbors. But somehow, Marla found out. On December 10th, Marla taped a notice to every door in the neighborhood. "Emergency HOA meeting. Community disruption discussion." Translation: she was calling a meeting about me. I showed up just to see what she'd say. The room was full. Chairs packed. People whispering. Some glaring at me. Some patting my shoulder. Marla walked in wearing her brightest orange suit yet, like she dressed specifically to blind me into submission. She slammed her folder on the table. "His decorations violate Section 7B, 9C, and 14A. People gasped at the list. I raised my hand. "Section 14A is no longer valid." She glared at me. "It is valid when I say it's valid." Someone in the back muttered, "Oh, brother." I stood up. "Everything I've done is within the rules, and people have been enjoying it." Marla pointed at me like she was accusing me of arson. "You are disrupting the visual harmony of this neighborhood." Someone whispered, "It looks great." But Marla wasn't listening. She was on a power trip. A bright orange power trip. Then she made her big announcement. "You have until Christmas Eve to dismantle everything." People started yelling. Some supporting her. Most supporting me. The meeting fell apart. Voices everywhere. Chaos. And Marla stormed out, certain she'd won. but she had no idea what was coming. The court date. On December 22nd, a hearing was scheduled. A quick review of my injunction request. Marla actually showed up, still in her orange pantsuit, still furious. When the judge asked for evidence, she tried to cite her favorite invalid rule, Section 14A. My lawyer calmly handed the judge the updated HOA covenant. The judge stared at her and asked, "Why are you citing a removed section?" Marla stuttered. I believe it should still apply." "That's not how law works," the judge said. I almost laughed out loud. The judge granted my injunction, meaning the HOA couldn't force me to remove anything. But the HOAs don't like losing. And Marla really didn't like losing. It was 8:30 a.m. I was making coffee when I heard a knock. Not a polite knock. A police knock. I opened the door, and standing there was a sheriff. And behind him, Marla, arms crossed, face smug, suit bright orange. She looked like a victorious tangerine. The sheriff cleared his throat. "Sir, we have a court order." Marla smirked at me. Finally. But then, the sheriff turned to face her. "Ma'am, this order prevents you and the HOA from taking any action against his decorations." Her smile evaporated. Completely gone. "You what? No. This is wrong." "No, ma'am," the sheriff said. "It's official. You cannot touch his property." Neighbors started poking their heads out. Someone cheered. Kids clapped. Santa the inflatable waved behind me like he was celebrating too. And Marla? She stood frozen, jaw clenched, suit glowing, humiliated. She turned on her heel and stormed away. I swear, I've never seen a pantsuit vibrate with rage before. And that was only the beginning. The sheriff drove off. My lights stayed up. The neighborhood gathered that night in front of my house to celebrate. Kids danced in the snow machine flurries. We raised over $5,000 in toys and donations. But trust me, Marla wasn't done. Not even close. Christmas Eve morning should have been perfect. The sheriff had just shut Marla down. My lights were glowing. Neighbors were cheering. Kids were running through the artificial snow like they were in some low-budget Hallmark movie. But the thing about people like Marla? They don't let things go. They plot. And the moment she stormed off my lawn, I knew the war wasn't over. I just didn't realize how far she would go, or how many people she'd drag into the chaos with her. Christmas morning came and the whole neighborhood was buzzing. Families were everywhere, some coming to see the decorations before heading to gather with relatives. Kids thanked me for saving Christmas. Parents brought food. Someone even handed me a mug that said, HOA Survivor. But something felt off. Marla was nowhere to be seen. No angry footsteps. No clipboard. No orange suit marching down the sidewalk like a warning beacon. Just emptiness. It was too quiet. And people noticed. Paul knocked on my door around noon. "Think she's planning something?" he asked, sipping from a thermos of hot cocoa. "Definitely," I said. "She left without screaming. That's not normal." He laughed. "Maybe she finally realized she lost." I shook my head. "No. Marla's the kind of person who tries to return a sandwich if it has too much joy in it. She's not done." Paul let out a long sigh. "Well, Merry Christmas anyway. Let's enjoy the peace while we can." Peace lasted exactly one day. The morning after Christmas, I checked my phone and saw a string of notifications. Not from friends. Not from neighbors. From the HOA. 41 emails. All timestamps within the same 6 minutes. My stomach dropped. I clicked the first one. Subject: Notice of HOA Board Review. Content: Your recent legal action necessitates a board-level response. Next email. Subject: Notice of potential fees. Content: Your legal interference has created administrative costs. Another. Subject: Notice of community disruption. Content: The neighborhood has reported increased traffic and disturbances. Another. Subject: Emergency policy revision. Content: The HOA is considering updating holiday decoration rules for future seasons. On and on and on. I kept scrolling. One email simply said, "We are watching for compliance." That one felt personal. But the worst part wasn't the emails. It was the signature line. HOA Board. President. Marla R. Higgins. She had sent every single one. She spent Christmas night writing 41 angry emails. I turned to Paul, who was sitting at my counter drinking coffee. I held up my phone. "She's back," he groaned. I knew she wouldn't go away. Orange demons never sleep. By December 27th, the whole neighborhood was in gossip mode. One person claimed Marla was trying to rewrite the HOA handbook overnight. Another said she was calling a lawyer. Someone even said she wanted to raise HOA dues just to teach me a lesson. Whether any of that was true didn't matter. The fear was real. People knocked on my door asking, "Is she allowed to do this? Are we going to get fined because of your decorations? Can she really rewrite rules out of spite? Are you going to fight back?" I tried calming people down. "Don't worry, she's bluffing." But then, on December 28th, she stopped bluffing. That morning, I stepped outside to get the mail, and I froze. Every house on my street, not just mine, had a bright orange envelope taped to their door. Every single one. Kids were ripping them off. Parents were panicking. Dogs were barking. And neighbors were all reading the exact same letter. HOA Policy Update Proposal. Due to widespread disruption and unapproved community gatherings stemming from holiday decorations, the HOA proposes a ban on exterior decorations exceeding 800 lumens, a limit of one inflatable per household, a prohibition on music-playing decorations, a requirement for HOA pre-approval of any seasonal display. Vote scheduled for January 3rd. The HOA Board. President. Marla R. Higgins. People were furious. My neighbor Sarah came running up to me, waving the paper. "What is this?" she yelled. Paul walked over holding his letter, muttering, "I swear she wrote this wearing that damn orange suit." Soon, half the neighborhood gathered on my lawn. Everyone was yelling, some at me, most at Marla. "She's punishing us. We didn't even do anything wrong. This is insane. She's using her power to control the whole community." One guy shouted, "This is a dictatorship, with citrus colors." I tried calming the crowd, but it wasn't working. Finally, Paul demanded, "What are you going to do?" I didn't hesitate. "I'm fighting it." 2 hours later, I hosted a meeting in my garage. Yes, my garage. Because the HOA had postponed their official meeting, and someone needed to take charge. We squeezed in folding chairs. People brought cookies. Someone brought a literal box labeled HOA Rage Snacks. I stepped forward. "Marla's overstepping. This isn't about decorations. It's about control." Everyone nodded. "She's using my display as an excuse to force new rules," I continued. "She wants absolute authority." A neighbor named Jenna raised her hand. "We need to stop this before the January 3rd vote." Someone else chimed in. "She's been ruling this HOA for years. Nobody ever stands up to her." Paul raised his thermos. "Well, now we are." The room erupted in applause. And that was the moment we became, accidentally, a rebellion. Later that night, I was in my driveway taking down a few extension cords when I heard it. Clack, clack, clack. That unmistakable shoe tap. I turned around. There she was. Marla. Orange pantsuit glowing like a radioactive traffic cone. Clipboard tucked against her chest. Lips pursed tight enough to crush diamonds. She stood right in front of me. "You think you're very clever," she said. I stayed silent. She continued, "Hosting illegal gatherings, stirring up residents, challenging board authority." I crossed my arms. "I'm standing up for myself." "No," she hissed. "You're destabilizing my community." "Your community?" I asked. She leaned in close. "So long as I'm president, it belongs to me." She actually said that, with her whole chest. I laughed out loud. Probably the worst thing I could have done. Her face turned the color of her suit. She pointed her clipboard at my nose. I will win the vote, she said. I will rewrite the rules. And when I do, you'll never put up decorations like this again. Then she spun around and stormed off. I stood there, still stunned. Did she really think she could threaten her whole neighborhood into submission? Because something was about to happen that she didn't expect. Something big. The next morning, I started a petition. Not a digital one. A real, old-school, pen-on-paper petition. Vote no on the new HOA restrictions. I walked door to door. People didn't hesitate. They signed without even reading the full text. Some wrote paragraphs. One person drew a cartoon of Marla battling Santa. One guy wrote, "Let the man have his lights." Within 2 days, I had 94 signatures. Marla needed 51 votes to pass her new rules. With my petition alone, she didn't have the numbers. But she didn't know that yet. January 3rd arrived. The day of the vote. People filled the community center like it was a courtroom drama finale. Marla marched in wearing her boldest orange suit yet. Clipboard in hand. Chin high, like she was entering the Supreme Court. I sat in the front row, petition in hand. She started her speech. Good evening, residents. Today we address a very serious issue. One individual whose disruptive, excessive, and unlawful holiday display. People groaned. Someone muttered, "Here she goes again." She continued, "This individual has caused traffic congestion, noise disturbances, and risked the safety of children." I stood up. "That's not true." She froze. Everyone turned toward me. "The sheriff shut you down," I said. "You broke the rules, not me." A few people clapped. Marla glared. "You are out of order," she shouted. I stepped forward and held up the petition. "No, I'm a homeowner, and so are all the people who signed this." She blinked. I handed the petition to the board treasurer. 94 signatures against your proposal." The room erupted. Marla's face drained of color. The first time I'd ever seen her look pale. The treasurer counted. And then he announced, "The proposal fails." People cheered. Some stood up. Some hugged me. Meanwhile, Marla sat motionless. Then suddenly, she slammed her clipboard down and screamed, "This community has lost its mind." She stormed out of the room, orange suit blazing like a furious sunset. And that was it. The war was over. 2 days later, everyone received an official HOA newsletter. Marla had resigned. Effective immediately. No explanation. No farewell message. Just gone. Neighbors celebrated like it was New Year's Eve. People knocked on my door to thank me. Kids asked if the lights would return next year. I said yes. And the next year, and the one after that, it became a tradition. And without Marla, without the orange pantsuit of doom, the neighborhood actually felt like Christmas again. Most people thought that when Marla resigned, the story was over. The big bad HOA president lost her power, the neighborhood got its freedom back, and the decorations lived happily ever after. But that's not how real life works, because when one tyrant falls, there's always someone waiting to replace them. Or worse, someone who never wanted to begin with. The weeks following Marla's resignation were surprisingly peaceful. No angry emails. No violation notices. No footsteps echoing across my lawn like an angry metronome. Honestly, I thought we had won. But then January ended, and a new kind of chaos began. One morning, I was clearing some leftover snow machine residue from the driveway when I saw an unfamiliar car pull into the clubhouse lot. A tall man stepped out in a pristine suit. Silver hair, sharp jawline, clip-on name badge that read, HOA Interim President, Gerald K. Thompson. I'd never seen him before. He walked like he owned the place. Stiff posture, no smile, eyes scanning houses like they were stock prices. Immediately, my instincts kicked in. Oh no, here comes the sequel. I told myself I was overreacting. Maybe he was normal. Maybe he'd be reasonable. Maybe this HOA could get a fresh start. But then he knocked on my door. And from the first second he spoke, I knew this man was going to be worse. "Good morning," he said, extending a hand. "Gerald Thompson." I'll be managing the homeowners association until the next election. I shook his hand out of politeness. He looked around my yard, eyes landing on the remnants of decorations I hadn't boxed up yet. Quite a festive, he said, with a tone that clearly meant obnoxious. Thanks, I replied. He cleared his throat. Just to be transparent, I intend to review several of the previous board's decisions, including the holiday-related disputes. I raised an eyebrow. You mean the ones involving Marla? He didn't blink. Correct. She resigned, I said. The community voted against her proposals. He smiled the kind of smile dentists give when they say a root canal won't hurt. Yes, and as the interim president, I have authority to revisit any policies or decisions I deem inconsistent. My heart stopped. You're not trying to reinstate her rules, are you? I haven't decided, he said. But I will say this. The HOA must maintain order. Then he did a slow, deliberate scan of my yard. And order was lacking. I couldn't help but laugh. Are you serious? It's January. I don't even have lights on right now. Just making observations, he said. Then he reached into a folder and handed me a document. A survey. Please describe your willingness to support stricter holiday decoration guidelines. I stared at it. You're reopening the case. Gerald gave a tiny smirk. I reopen whatever I feel is necessary. And just like that, he turned and walked away. Paul came over the moment he saw Gerald leave. Who was that guy? Why did he look like a villain CEO? That, I said, waving the survey in the air, is our new HOA president. Paul groaned. No, not again. I can't live through another orange rain. I know, I said. But this guy, he's different. How? He's calm. He's polite. And somehow, that makes him more dangerous. Paul nodded. Yeah, quiet people in suits always scare me. But I felt something else too. Not just fear. Suspicion. Because Gerald wasn't acting like a normal HOA president. He didn't ask about dues, or maintenance, or schedule upcoming meetings. He only cared about one thing: holiday decorations. Mine specifically. There was something off. And soon, I found out what. 3 days later, a letter showed up. Not orange. White envelope. Very professional looking. Inside was a notice. Your property remains under review for potential excess spotlight fixtures. Spotlight fixtures? I walked outside to see what he was talking about. He was referring to 2 tiny solar pathway lights I forgot to bring in. 2. They barely glowed. If I stepped on them, they'd die instantly. This was ridiculous. I knocked on Paul's door to show him. He stared at the paper. He's reaching, Paul said. Hard. He wants an excuse, I replied. But why? Why me? Why this obsession? That night, lying in bed, I replayed my interactions with him. His tone, his eyes, his smirk. And then something Marla had shouted during one of her meltdowns echoed in my mind. This community has lost its mind. That phrase stuck with me, because it wasn't just anger. It was fear. Fear of losing control. Fear of someone above her. And that's when the thought hit me. What if Marla wasn't acting alone? What if someone else was pulling strings? Someone like Gerald. The next day, I went to the clubhouse. The place was empty, but the door to the back office was slightly ajar. And through it, I saw something that made my heart freeze. A huge, laminated map of the neighborhood hung on the wall. Every house was marked with symbols. But mine had a bright red circle around it. And underneath it was written, Primary Target, Non-Compliant. My stomach dropped. Gerald stepped out of a side room holding a coffee mug. He didn't expect to see me. Ah, you're early, he said. I gestured toward the map. What is this? He glanced at it casually. Preliminary audit notes. Audit? I asked. Of what? He sipped his coffee. Behavior patterns. Compliance issues. Resident influence. Resident influence? He walked toward me slowly. You rallied the neighborhood against the previous president. She tried to control us, and you made it impossible. He stepped closer. Now I'm here to restore order. I stared at him. You're targeting residents. He corrected me. I'm targeting you. My heart hammered. Why? He gave a slow, calculated smile. Because you're the only one who's ever beaten this HOA. A chill ran up my spine. This is personal for you, I said. He tapped his finger against his mug. It's not personal. It's structural. And then he dropped the real bombshell. Marla wasn't the problem. She was the symptom. I felt my mouth go dry. What does that mean? I asked. Gerald nodded toward the black file cabinet behind him. Inside were dozens of folders labeled non-compliant residents, high-influence individuals, policy threats, priority revisions, intervention targets. Then he pointed directly at me. You are an intervention target. My chest tightened. This man wasn't an HOA president. He was a strategist, a manipulator, possibly something far worse. And I had just stepped into enemy territory. I took a step back toward the door. You can't target me, I said. The community won't let you. You think they care? He asked. They forget. They adapt. They obey. No, I said. You don't know them. He smirked. I know human nature. They want peace. And they'll follow whoever provides it. And you think that's you? I am peace, he said calmly. Then he leaned in and whispered. And you are chaos. I clenched my fists. You're making a mistake. No, he said. You're the one who made a mistake the moment you turned those lights on. That was it. I stormed out of the office. But the battle had only just begun. That night, I gathered everyone again. Same garage. Same folding chairs. Same snacks. What now? Sarah asked. I took a deep breath. Gerald isn't here to help the neighborhood, I said. He's here to control it. People murmured. Worried faces everywhere. He has files with names, I said. He's targeting people. Who? Someone asked. I hesitated. Then I admitted. Me. He circled my house on a map. The room erupted. This is insane. We can't let him. He's worse than Marla. Why are we always dealing with psychos in suits? But then Paul stood. We stopped Marla together, he said. We can stop Gerald too. Everyone nodded. This time, there was no fear. There was anger and unity. We formed a plan. Step 1, gather evidence. Step 2, document harassment. Step 3, notify the board. Step 4, call for a removal vote. Step 5, replace the president. We assigned teams. Someone would monitor the clubhouse. Someone would track letters. Someone would record conversations. Someone would research the HOA bylaws. And me? I would confront Gerald publicly. Not with anger. Not with threats. With the truth. The next HOA meeting was 2 weeks later. Packed house. Standing room only. I walked in with a folder of evidence. Neighbors flanked me on both sides. Gerald stood at the front, smiling calmly. Let's begin, he said. But I didn't let him. I stepped forward. We're voting to remove you. Gasps everywhere. Gerald's smile barely twitched. And on what grounds? He asked. I opened the folder. Targeting residents. I held up photos of the map. Keeping secret files. I held up pictures of the labels. Threatening homeowners. I held up transcripts. Misusing authority. I held up copies of his false notices. The room erupted. People shouted, "Enough! This has to stop. He's abusing power." But Gerald didn't break. He simply said, "You're all being misled." Then I pulled out the last document. A resignation letter. Not his, Marla's. But not the one we all received. The real one. She had handwritten notes in the margins. Notes that explained everything. Gerald said he'll take over if I fail. He wants the HOA to be stricter. He said the board needs obedience. He said the neighborhood must follow structure. I didn't resign willingly. The room went silent. Gerald's face finally cracked. Pure panic. And then the treasurer stood. I call for an immediate vote. Hands raised everywhere. It wasn't even close. Gerald was removed, just like that, and as security escorted him out, he glared at me and said, "This isn't over." But he was wrong, because it was, for good. Weeks later, the new HOA board was calm, kind, reasonable. People decorated freely. Kids played outside without fear. The map was gone. The files were shredded. Peace was finally real. And me? I put up my lights again the next Christmas. Bigger than ever. Brighter than ever. Because no amount of orange pantsuits, power-hungry strategists, or HOA tyrants will ever kill the magic of Christmas for me or my community. And that was how we ended the war. After Gerald was removed from the HOA and the neighborhood finally felt normal again, I honestly thought the chaos was behind us. No more surprise rule changes. No more orange threats taped to my door. No more power-hungry executives disguised as community leaders. For the first time in years, the neighborhood breathed. Kids rode bikes. Neighbors waved again. People actually talked without whispering in fear of some HOA spy lurking nearby. Felt like a small miracle. But just when I thought everything was peaceful, life threw me another curveball. Except this time, it wasn't war. It wasn't drama. It wasn't revenge. It was something I never expected. A second chance. It started in early November the following year. I was pulling my Christmas decorations out of storage. Yes, early, don't judge. When I noticed something odd, someone had left a small envelope on my porch. Not orange, not threatening, just plain white. Inside was a single piece of paper. "Thank you for standing up." Not many would have. No signature, just that one sentence. I brought it inside, stared at it for a while, and placed it on the counter. I didn't think much of it. But 2 days later, a woman knocked on my door. When I opened it, I saw her, Marla, not wearing her orange pantsuit, not carrying her clipboard, not glaring, just standing there, looking human, almost fragile. Her hair was pulled back softly instead of the tight, intimidating bun she usually wore. She wasn't wearing makeup, no power suit, just a simple gray cardigan. For the first time ever, she looked small. She cleared her throat nervously. "May I speak with you?" I blinked. Yeah, sure." She stepped inside slowly, like she wasn't sure she'd be welcome. I gestured to the couch. She sat, hands folded, eyes down, legs crossed carefully as if she was scared of making noise. "I'm not here to cause trouble," she said softly. "I'm here to explain." My chest tightened. Explain? After all this time? After all the chaos? I had no idea what she was about to say. She took a deep breath. "When I became HOA president, I didn't want to be." Her voice shook slightly. "I never wanted the power. I only wanted structure. I needed control. I didn't interrupt." She continued, "My life outside the HOA was falling apart. My marriage failed. My kids moved away. I felt invisible. The HOA was the only thing I had left that made me feel like I mattered." She swallowed hard. "When you put up your decorations that year, it wasn't about the rules. It wasn't about noise. It wasn't about luminescence quotas." I raised an eyebrow gently. She exhaled. "It was because your house had joy. Real joy. People gathered. Kids laughed. Neighbors came together. They chose your house. Not mine." She looked up at me, eyes glossy. And I hated that. There it was. The truth behind everything. Not rules. Not regulations. Not HOA structure. Envy. Loneliness. Pain. I didn't know what to say. She wiped her eye quickly like she didn't want me to see the tear. "I got lost in it," she whispered. "All that power. All that control. It became my identity. And when you stood up to me, when the neighborhood supported you, I realized how alone I actually was." I swallowed. This wasn't the Marla I fought. This was someone broken. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "For everything." The room felt heavier than ever. Not with anger, with empathy. I nodded slowly. "Thank you. That takes guts to admit." She took another breath. I'm in therapy now, trying to fix things, trying to fix myself. For the first time ever, I felt something I never imagined I'd feel toward her. Compassion. I'm glad you're getting help, I said. She nodded. May I ask one thing? I hesitated. Depends what it is. She looked at me with a small, sad smile. Can I help decorate your house this year? My heart dropped. Not from fear, from shock. Decorate with me? I repeated. She nodded. I want to be part of something good, something happy. Maybe learn what I fought so hard against. I didn't answer at first. I needed a moment, but then I nodded. Yeah, you can. Her smile cracked open, not wide, not excited, but grateful. And that was enough. We started the next day. For the first time ever, Marla walked into my garage without a clipboard. Where do we start? She asked gently. I handed her a box of LED icicle lights. She lifted an eyebrow. I used to find people for these, she said. I snorted. Yeah, I remember. But she wasn't sarcastic. She was embarrassed. We worked side by side. She held the ladder while I clipped lights to the roofline. She helped me position the inflatables. She organized cords. She even laughed, something I had never heard from her before. At one point, she picked up a Christmas wreath and whispered, It's been years since I hung one of these. I gave a small smile. Well, welcome back. Every day we decorated a little more. Every day she opened up a little more. She told me about her daughter, about her divorce, about losing friends, about isolating herself behind rules, about her fear of becoming irrelevant. And as strange as it sounds, we bonded, not as enemies, not even as neighbors, as people. By December 1st, my house looked better than any year before. Not because I had more decorations, but because this time, the decorating meant something deeper. Marla stood next to me as the lights turned on for the first time. The entire house glowed. Santa inflated triumphantly. The snow machine hummed to life. Music played softly from the speakers. Marla gasped, like a kid seeing Christmas magic for the first time. Oh my God, she whispered. It's beautiful. I looked at her. She wasn't wearing orange. She wasn't scowling. She wasn't barking rules. She was smiling, a real smile. I said softly, Welcome to Christmas. Tears welled up again, but she wiped them quickly. Thank you, she whispered. But that night wasn't just special because of her. Because something else happened. Something that made everything, and I mean everything, worth it. As the lights lit up, people began to walk toward my house. Kids, parents, elderly couples, teenagers, everyone. Dozens, then dozens more. Soon, my entire yard was filled. But something unexpected happened. People didn't look at me. They looked at her. And they didn't glare. They didn't scowl. They didn't mutter insults. They smiled. One of the neighborhood kids ran up to her and tugged her sleeve. Miss Marla, did you help with the lights? She froze. Yes, she said softly. I did. The kid beamed. They're the best ever. I swear, Marla nearly broke down right there. Parents came over and thanked her. Regular neighbors waved. People welcomed her. Not as a tyrant. Not as an enemy. But as someone trying to be better. Someone trying again. She squeezed my arm and whispered, Thank you for giving me a chance. I nodded. Everyone deserves one. On December 23rd, I found another envelope on my porch. Also white. Also simple. Inside was a letter from Gerald. Yes, that Gerald. It said, You may have won the battle for Christmas, but the HOA's structure will always remain. You just chose a different leader. But don't be fooled. Power always has a cost. Enjoy the stability while it lasts. GKT. A chill ran through me. I had almost forgotten about him. Almost. But I folded the letter and put it away. This wasn't his story anymore. And I refused to let him haunt it. The night before Christmas, the neighborhood gathered again. But this time was different, because Marla was standing next to me, helping distribute cookies, laughing with kids, talking to neighbors, actually being part of the community she once terrorized. And at one point, she looked at me and said something that floored me. "Next year," she whispered, "let's make it even bigger." I nearly choked on my cocoa. "Wait, seriously?" She nodded shyly. "I was thinking, maybe we could add a gingerbread photo wall? And maybe a cocoa stand? And maybe," I laughed, "Marla, are you planning a Christmas festival?" She blushed. "Maybe." I nudged her shoulder. "Let's do it." She grinned. And in that moment, I realized something important. People can change. People can grow. People can heal. Even people in orange pantsuits. Marla never wore the orange suit again. She never returned to the HOA. She even apologized publicly at a board meeting. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to. She became a friend. A real one. And every year since, we decorated the house together. And every year, the neighborhood grew closer. And every year, the light display got bigger, brighter, more magical. And every year, it reminded me of something. Christmas isn't about perfection. It isn't about rules. It isn't about lights or inflatables or snow machines. It's about people. About forgiveness. About second chances. About community. And that year, with all the chaos, all the battles, all the insanity, I learned something I'll never forget. Even the people who try to ruin Christmas might just need it the most. At the end of the day, this wasn't just a fight about Christmas lights. It was a reminder that people are complicated. Some hurt because they're hurting. Some control because they feel like they've lost control. And sometimes, the person who tries the hardest to ruin your joy is the one who needed that joy the most. But no matter what, never let anyone dim your light. Not an HOA, not a rulebook, not a bully in an orange pantsuit. Because the moment you stop shining, they win. And the world needs your brightness. More than you know. If you enjoyed this chaotic, heartwarming Christmas saga, hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more insane HOA stories, plot twists, and feel-good revenge. Comment below, what's the wildest thing your HOA has ever done? I'm reading the top replies for the next episode.